Okay. Are you ready to live a life, or at least see some things, or maybe gain some understanding? Just as I talk today, it's a simple message, it's a basic message, but live a life. Get to a point where you can live a life free from regret. Don't we all want that? There isn't anybody sitting in this room, there isn't anybody that'll be watching this later on YouTube that doesn't have some regrets in life. We all do. Everybody. And so no one's different. So consider this question today. What stands between you and a life that's marked with regret? The places of things that are outside pressures that come into your life, and we make decisions that we regret that we made later. You see, we live in a time, it's unprecedented, really unprecedented with freedoms that we live at in this nation. Now, granted, we all know, hey, we feel like some of those freedoms have been taken away, pushed to the side, and hopefully we're getting some of those things back. However, we live in a life, a world surrounded by just crazy technology, and it's moving in leaps and bounds. And I've kind of been talking about this a little bit in different ways through different sermons over the last 2 or 3 weeks. But this technology gives us instant access to every imaginable desire that you could ever want or think about or anything in your life. And then you compound that with culture. Culture, nowadays, it celebrates the unrestrained pursuit of self. Everything in life is geared towards you pleasing yourself. And so when you combine that with the way the technology is absolutely going off the charts now, I've talked about it before. You know, we're in a time of AI, artificial intelligence, and we're actually starting to move into AGI. Okay, that's artificial general intelligence, which that is basically, in a nutshell, it's a matter of it's coming to a point where computers and technology can think just like we do and reason like we do. That's where we live now. The next step beyond that, when you get into quantum computers and things that are on the horizon, they already have them, but it's not like on a mass thing, is ASI, which is artificial superintelligence. That's when it's going to cross over, and AI and technology is going to be more advanced and smarter than we are. That's where the spooky stuff lives. But it's all because we have this incessant desire to please self and to continually, man has always wanted to be its own God. That's the problem. That goes all the way back to Genesis. Satan didn't tell Adam and Eve or start with Eve or whatever and tell her, okay, you have to do this, and then you need to do this, and then you mess this up, and then you do that, and then you make this bad decision. All he did was made Eve question God. That's it. Made Eve question what God had already laid down of what was good, what was bad. Made her question. And turned it into a us against God type thing because we want to be God. So today, my sermon title, we're going to dive into, as Chris puts that up, rumble strips and stop losses. Living a regret-free life. That's what I want to kind of talk about today, and hopefully this will kind of give you, it's more of a sermon to open your eyes and maybe think of some things differently, setting up some boundaries so that you don't crash in the chaos. There's a lot of crazy coming, folks. Next week, believe it or not, I'm gonna dive into, it's gonna be one that you're just going to love. You're gonna be like, man, Pastor, I've been waiting for years for you to preach this one. My wife gets nervous. She doesn't know. Anytime I say it, she's like, oh boy, where's he going? Where's he going? We're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about finances. We're going to talk about what's coming on the horizon in the world you live in. Because as a pastor, I feel that it's my job to prepare you. That's what I'm supposed to do. Because everything I do is supposed to turn you towards God. Everything the world wants to do is turn you towards the world. So we're going to deal with some of those things next week. I have just a portion in here, but I'm keeping it small because I'm going to deal more of that next week and get into those things. But I want you to have those boundaries so that we don't come crashing down. Now, what are some of those? As I was thinking, I was like, okay, what are some things that we can relate to in life that is going to be kind of this thing of those kind of boundaries and things. This, as I call it, rumble strips. We all know what rumble strips are, right? And stop losses. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But so we can live a life without regret. Anybody ever go bowling? Yeah. What do you do with the kids? What do? They pop up the bumper guards, don't they? What are those for? Yeah, some of you may use bumper guards, and that's okay. But what is it? It creates a boundary, right? It creates an area to keep your ball within that so you don't just always throw gutter balls. It's there for a reason to help you. You drive down the interstate, right? You have the rumble strips, right? Becomes a boundary. What else do you have on an interstate that you'll see? Guardrails. They're to keep you from going off the road. The rumble strips keep you from going off the road, getting in a place of danger. Because those end up regrets. When I turned over that semi, guess what wasn't there? There weren't any kind of guardrails. There wasn't any rumble strip. It was just about a 4-foot drop-off in a corner. There was nothing there as a safeguard. And it was a bad ride. A little bit of surgery later, we're all better, that's fine. But if you, and I don't have a picture of it to put up there, but if you saw the rig, you would know, hey, maybe he was a little bit more than just lucky. Maybe good Lord was looking out for him. That's the way I look at it. And so we want to find these areas of our lives where we can have these kind of boundaries, these rumble strips of our life, these stop losses in our lives, or sometimes down the middle of the interstates in the median, you see those ones they're like metal posts and they got wires through them. Well, that's so you can't, if you hit those, it's kind of like a catch fence at a NASCAR event. Come through there at high speeds or anything like that, your car gets twisted up in it, it absorbs the energy, and you stay safe, and it keeps you from being able to cross over. Those are the kind of things we're talking about. I know everybody loves construction zones, right? Yeah, that was sarcasm right there. Okay? But those big concrete barriers between lanes or between where they're switching traffic patterns and all those, they're there for a reason. They're there so you don't hit the other cars. They're there so you don't hit a construction worker. They're there as safeguards. And in my industry, in the quarry industry, in the mining industry, we have ledges that you get out on with your drills, and you'll have your pickups out there and different things. If you just imagine a big flat ledge out there, and guys in here that drill with me, they're going, yeah, flat, right? They're like this. But they put berms up. And a berm is just a pile of rock they put around the edge of what we call the face, which is where you're doing your drilling. They pile that up so you don't do what? So you don't fall off the edge. It becomes a boundary. And these are the things I want to look at in life. The last thing I put on there in my title, we all understand rumble strips and what they do. Stop losses. I don't know if any of you are traders. I trade a lot with in cryptocurrencies or stock market trading and different things. But we have in that area what we call stop losses. And what a stop loss is you decide, okay, I'm going to buy in at X amount of dollars. I'm going to buy this crypto, or I'm going to buy this stock at X amount of dollars. And as you're trading, what you can do is you can put on it what's called a stop loss. And that's exactly what it means. It's like, okay, if this thing starts to go, great. However, I'm only willing to lose X amount of dollars. So then you put in what's called a stop loss. And what that does is that tells it, okay, if it reaches this number, then I automatically want you to sell. Okay, you don't have to do this. You're setting this up. It will do it on its own. But you're putting that in there as a boundary, as a safeguard to your money. You may be willing to, in your trade, maybe you're willing to lose $100. Whatever's good for you. But you'll put a stop loss at $100 underneath that, and once that hits that, it sells off. That's to protect you from losing $5,000. Okay? So now take those things, rumble strips, stop losses, all these different things, and I want you to just internally be thinking of these kinds of things as I talk about this with your life. You need those things, those type of measures put in your life. Because when you don't, that's when we make regretful decisions. Okay? How many of you know when we were younger, what we're doing? Man, we're hustling through jobs, we're moving through relationships, we're doing all these things. And then nowadays, you get a little bit older. Now the younger generations do it too. And what is it now? It's endless scrolling on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and on X and all those different things. Everything to take you away, to divert you with from reality usually, with no stop losses put in, with no rumble strips there to save you, no guardrails, no bumper pads, none of those types of things, and then you make regretful decisions. Everyone is susceptible to this. So, I'm going to give you about 5 things here. The first one, build them before you break. So what am I talking about? Rumble strips and stop losses in your life isn't about restriction. It's about redirection. That's why you need them. It's to redirect your life. If you get over too far and you hit the rumble strip, what does it do? Can you drive through the rumble strip and still go over off the side of the road? Yeah, it doesn't keep you from it. But what's it do? It wakes you up, usually. And what does it do? It redirects your path. Stop loss does the same thing. It puts you in a position to stop the loss, makes you take another look at it, right? It kept you from losing more than you really want to lose. It's there, these type of things in your life and placed in your life are there to keep you safe before you actually fall into the dangerous path that you're beginning to move towards. And it helps to remove that. It's no different if you were down here on Interstate 64 there, and you hit the rumble strips. Well, all of a sudden you correct. You're like, oh my gosh. You pull over. You're one of 2 things, usually. You're either asleep or you're on your phone. Texting somebody, making a call, all those type things. Used to, it's just you were asleep, not paying attention. And so we have to have those things there because it keeps us ending up in the ditch in our lives. Plenty of us have had to work ourselves out of ditches in our lives because we didn't have stop losses set in. We didn't have boundaries. We didn't, when we hit the rumble strip, we kept going. That's what those things we need to put in our lives. Listen to Proverbs 22:3. He says, the prudent man, what does that mean? A prudent man's cautious. He's using wisdom when he looks at things. A prudent man foresees evil and hides himself. Bruce, I think Dave's coming. Says evil. Bruce. Dave's over there. There you go. I knew he wouldn't get in. Thank you. Says a prudent man foresees evil and hides himself. But the simple pass on and are punished. See, the one that doesn't wake up, the one that doesn't put in the stop loss, those boundaries, those bumper pads, the one that doesn't do those things, you end up being damaged in some way because of it. Stop losses, you lose money if you don't have that safeguard in there. Rumble strip, you keep going, what happens? You end up in the ditch. You end up off the road. You end up wrapped around a tree. So he's saying those of us that are wise, we see this trouble coming because we've placed these safeguards there. And it's no different than at night. I even left normally I leave my phone in my desk. Late night when you're sitting there and you're scrolling, trying to go to sleep, you're just doing nothing. You got all those things going on. You need those same safeguards with these things. These things are probably the biggest distraction you have in your life right now. And hey, we can't even function in the world anymore pretty much without one. I know we can't in the workplace. So we're constantly around those, but you need those rumble strips and you need those stopping measures put between you and them. It's no different than, you're sitting there and you're trying to sleep, but you're doing those things, or maybe you're, just one more drink. And then it gets out of control. You see, it happens in all kinds of places in our lives. And we can find that, but when we don't put those things there, it's when we make bad decisions. Back to our phones, because that is one of the biggest things that we deal with in our lives today. We're constantly scrolling on. I talked last week about all the hours that we put on our phones every single week, every single day. Whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, it doesn't matter. But what happens many times is we're sitting there, we're scrolling, and we see something on Facebook or whatever, and next thing you know, because of something someone posted, you're scotching mad. So next thing you know, well, now I got to reply to that, and because you've got to get that enjoyment of lashing back out instead of cutting it off. If you have someone on Facebook, any of those social media type stuff that affects you in that way, you need a stop loss in there. You're hitting the rumble strip and you don't see it. Because the truth of the matter is, how many times do you do that over and over and over with the same people? That same person on your Facebook, Instagram, X, whatever it is, frosts you every single time. And you just can't wait to see what they put on there so you can just lash out. Because in all actuality, you want it. We want to complain about it. We want to get agitated about it. But yet we're right back here tomorrow doing the same thing. It's because you actually want it. You can't let go of it. Because you have no stop loss built in. You have no guardrail. You have no rumble strip. Well, there is a rumble strip there. That's your emotions. That's your rumble strip going off saying, hey, because every time they're on there, they frost me. But yet you never unfriend them. Why? Because you like it. That's why. And we all do those things. So we need those stop losses built in. What's a stop loss look like with that? Okay. One, I'm going to unfriend that individual, and I'm not going to be following, I'm not going to listen to it, and I'm going to get away from it because of how it affects me emotionally. Another good stop loss. Okay. I'm getting ready to go to bed and this and that. It winds me down. Actually, they've done studies where the lights on your phone, it's kind of what they call blue light. You ever notice on your phone now you can change it to what they call a true tone? That's because of what they found. The blue light, the lighting that they use on that affects you emotionally and mentally. And it creates anxiety. It actually changes sleep patterns. They tell you actually not to be doing that before you go to bed because you don't sleep as good because it affects you. So what I'm saying is put a stop loss in there. Okay, I'm only going to maybe 10 minutes before I go to bed. If you just have to, it's like 10 minutes before I go to bed. Or I'm only going to be on it 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Put that stop loss in there and then stick to it. Stick to it. It takes discipline. What's another way that looks like? How about the workplace? Oh, Pastor, don't do this. And everything that you do tells you, I'll just cut corners. I'll just cut corners, do it my way on this or that or whatever it may be. When I'm supposed to do this. or it needs to be this way. Set up a stop loss in there. What's your stop loss? Is recognizing it and seeing it and saying, you know what? I'm going to approach my job with integrity. You know there's a difference between integrity and character. Character is what everybody else sees. Integrity is what you'll do when nobody else is around you, but yet you'll still continue to do what the right thing is, regardless of whether anyone's around or not. And so putting those things in there, even when no one's watching, maybe it's that you're a workaholic. Yeah, hear my wife over clearing her throat? She knows me. I've been that way for years. I tell people, I'm probably going to be, when I meet people, I was like, I'm probably going to be your worst friend ever. They're like, that don't make sense. You're a good guy. Hey, yeah, I know, but I only know two things. I know work talk and I know church. That's it. I'm not a guy with a bunch of hobbies. I'm not a guy that's going to sit around and talk about pizza. I'm not that guy. I'm boring. I'm very straight-laced. A lot of times, I get made fun of all the time, even at work, because somebody will say something to me, then they have to tell me, that was just a joke. Because I'll take stuff seriously and run with it. And because I'm very literal. Yes, thank you, Sherry. Notice how quick she had that? Boom! But I'm that way. And so a stop loss for me, and I have to do this to myself sometimes, is regardless, especially if you're a younger father and you have kids at home, I'm leaving at 5 o'clock. I'm leaving at 5 o'clock. My family needs me. I need to have some time with them. That's your stop loss. I'm leaving at 5 o'clock tonight. I'm not staying till 7. See, those are the types of things that we need to place in our life, okay? Rumble strips, okay, and stop losses, you're going to feel like this. It's going to feel like this, but they're not there to cage you. They're actually there to catapult you to freedom. Freedom what? Emotionally, internally, anxiety-wise. And you have to build them, and you build them now before you break. Anxiety. Our culture today is riddled with anxiety and depression and everything. Those come from outside pressures. And when you don't put those in there, those safeguards, we falter. Second thing, you'll like this one. Who's in your DMs? Who's in your DMs? Because it matters. Basically, when you say, who's in your DMs, what are you saying? Who's in my circle? Direct messages, for those of you that may be not familiar with that term. Those direct messages that we get, that constant back and forth with those who are in our tight-knit circles. Proximity, who you let close to you. Proximity is power. Why? Because the people closest to you shape your destiny. The people that have your ear shape who you are. The people that have your ear can help you and they can hurt you. 1 Corinthians 15:33. Do not be deceived. I think everybody can understand that. Evil company corrupts good habits. King James says, exactly, sure, he's over quoting it. But bad company corrupts good character. Okay? Remember character. It's what everybody sees. It's who we are. It's part of who we are. Folks, it's easy. If you've ever had a teenager or if you were that teenager that started running with the wrong crowd. There's a reason the Bible tells you bad company corrupts good character. Because it does. And next thing you know, you're starting to make bad decisions because there's no stop losses built in and there's no rumble strip, or when the rumble strip goes off, you keep on going. And here, Paul, he's dropping a lot of truth bombs in the midst of this, because what this says for you in your life and me in my life, when you hang with complainers, guess what you're going to be? A complainer. When you're hanging with people that have a positive thing about them or they always, those ones that you get around, it's like, man, it's always amazing. I know you feel this way about me, but that's okay. We're not talking about me. But when you get around them, you just feel uplifted and you just feel excited. It's like, man, just to be around them and it makes you feel good. You don't know why, you can't figure it out, but you just feel better when you're around them. That's who you need to be bringing into your circle. We have a tendency to bring in all the complainers, all the whiners, all the negativity, and what's it do? Drags you down. Next thing you know, everything out of your mouth is negative. Everything you're going through is negative. Anxiety's going through the roof. Depression's out, kicking on your heels, and all these things. Stop. Look at what you're surrounding yourself with. We do it with X, we do it with TikTok, we do it with Facebook. All these kinds of things feeds those things in our lives that tear us down. And I always tell people, I don't ever tell people, don't be on X, don't be on Facebook, don't be on Instagram. Hey, if you want to do it, do it. I'm just telling you, you need to put some stop losses there. You need to put some rumble strips, for the rumble strips going off. Because all that stuff, social media, is full of drama queens and keyboard warriors. That's what they're good for. And it keeps you riled up. Keeps you just spun up into something. You're like, man, husband gets home, wife gets home, and next thing you know, it's like we're at each other's throat, and you have no idea because all the garbage and junk that you've been dealing with online for the last 2 hours with someone else had nothing to do with them, but you're just so spun up and tight within yourself because of all the garbage you've been putting in. What's the old saying? Garbage in, garbage out. And all of us are susceptible to us. I kind of said, here's my stop loss right here for this. Real simple. If they affect you that way, unfollow them. Get away from them. I know everything in you wants to go right back to it every single day because you just have to know what they're saying. Ooh, maybe it'll be about me. Maybe it'll be about somebody I know. Don't you say that about my so-and-so. And this next thing you know, man, it's just on fire and going crazy. That's what happens. And all of us, we get a chuckle out of it. But some of the reason you're probably chuckling is because it's 100% true. That's where we live because of no stop losses, no boundaries, and we don't hear the rumble strip going off. Maybe it's that gossiping coworker you have, right? Put a boundary there. Put a stop loss there. Tell yourself, look, I'm going to keep this professional and not personal. And then that's how you deal with it. Because here's the deal. Your vibe will attract your tribe. Your vibe will attract your tribe. Complainers attract complainers. Negativity attracts negativity. Try it sometime. You'll see something in there going on that's negative. Try to be the voice of reason. Try to be the one, go in there and have an uplifting comment. Then like 5 of them turn on you. Because actually negativity loves that. It feeds on that. Surround yourself with different people, right? Proximity isn't just physical. Proximity and who you surround yourself with nowadays, it's also digital. That's why I said, who's in your DM? Who's in your circle of influence? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Make sure it's people that are lifting you up and not dragging you down. If every time you get off of Facebook, every time you get off of X, every time you get off of Instagram and TikTok and all that, if you just feel horrible and you're mad and you're spun up, that's the rumble strip going off, and you have to do something different. If you do not change it, it will not change. Because it does not want to change. Okay? Third thing. Lockdown love. Ooh, what in the world? About relationships. Doesn't matter if you're married, doesn't matter if you're single, doesn't matter. This is for all of us. Rumble strips and stop losses, okay? We all of us, we deal with what? Wi-Fi. We deal with the internet, right? We deal with all those types of things. Do you know, and all of you in some form or fashion, usually it may just be from your service provider, but everybody has what they call a firewall. You know what a firewall's for? It's for protection. It's your stop loss. It's your rumble strip. And it's there to protect you from hackers. It's there to protect you from those that are trying to do harm. That is what we have to implement and put in our lives. I'm going to give you Ephesians. I used this a couple weeks ago, but Ephesians 5:25 and 33. Remember, dealing with relationships here because it matters. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her, that he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of water by the word, and that he might present her to himself a glorious church, not having a spot or wrinkle or such thing, but that she should be holy and without blemish. So husbands ought to love their own wives, pointing that out, as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no one ever hated his own flesh. We love ourselves, folks. Huh? He's saying we're supposed to love our spouse that way. We're supposed to love our significant other that way. He says, but nourish and cherish it, just as the Lord does the church. He's saying, I'm the example. How you see me with the church, that's how you need to be with your spouse. He says, for we're members of his body, of his flesh, and his bones. For this reason, a man, so he said, because of all this I just pointed out, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. One flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church. Nevertheless, let each one of you in particular so love his own wife, there it is again, as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. What I pointed out 2 weeks ago, this is the battle in every relationship. She wants loved, he wants respect, and we both fail. Because the guy's sitting back going, she doesn't respect me, but she's going, he never shows me any love. Folks, did you ever think that was biblical? Because God knew that that was going to be a challenge for each of us in our relationships. And we would struggle with that. So I say all that to say this in the context of what we're talking about here with guardrails. Married folks should never be flirting with danger. Okay? What do I mean by that? If you're in an office setting, you're in a workplace setting, things like that, guys, gals, it goes either way. A lot of ladies in the workforce nowadays. It goes either way. You don't go to lunch with that cute coworker. Got one amen. You don't do it. Both of you got to run to Walmart. Guess what? You don't ride together. You eliminate. Those are stop losses. Because the rumble strip is going, this could be bad. This could be bad. Don't do it. Don't do it. But we think, it's no big deal. See, you say a lot of marriages are destroyed over a cup of coffee. Nowadays, it's different. A lot of marriages are destroyed that started with a text. Just a nice, it's no big, it's innocent. He's just a friend. It's no big deal. She's just it's just a coworker. It's no big deal. Stop loss. Your rumble strip's going off. You don't do that. There's no need to do that. If I counsel with someone, if I counsel with a female, the understanding is my wife's in there. I don't go behind locked doors with women or shut doors with women. That is a stop loss measure that I've put with me so nothing can ever happen. Not that it would happen, but anything can be said. Boy, isn't that amazing? Pastors always counseling the women of the church. You ever seen that? Oh, I'm not saying he's doing anything, but boy, doesn't that just look funny? That's how it happens, folks. And then chatter starts. Oh, I know you're all shocked because we're in church and that stuff just doesn't happen in church. Yes, it does. Chatter always starts and does things. I've told you a million times, churches don't explode, churches implode. Because Satan's with all of us and in our minds. But don't do those. Put safeguards in there. You know, used to, I don't know if it's a thing now, but there was a thing a few years back that you'd hear about all the time and stuff, people that were on the dating scene and everything, was Tinder. But I remember that. I don't even know if it's still an app. But what'd you do? You would swipe, I think it was right or whatever it was. You swipe right if you were interested in that person that popped up on your phone. I'm just going to tell you. The whole design behind that stuff isn't anything good. You need to be swiping left. Well, actually, you don't even need to be on it. But you need to be swiping left, especially if they don't know Jesus and could care less about God, because there's only really one thing they care about. And I broke the guy code a couple weeks ago. Sorry, fellas, I broke it a couple weeks ago. Men are the master manipulators of emotional things when it comes to women. We can play you like a fiddle to get what we want. And I think you know what I mean. All we have to do is hear the whispers of you talking to your friends over here and talking to this thing and talking to this gal about all your problems at home and all your issues with your husband and everything that he doesn't do right and everything he doesn't do wrong. And I wish he would, and I wish he would. And all the time, the other guys now are taking mental notes. And next thing you know, he'll just start dropping little things in your lap that, wow, he's so attentive. Man, I wish Darren was that attentive. I wish he would do it. I wish he, John over here, he compliments my hair. Darren hadn't complimented my hair in months. Wow, he always notices when I get my hair cut. He always notices, like, I got a new outfit on and all that. Man, he's always complimenting me too. Hello? Don't listen to that stuff. There's a reason that's happening. Because I promise you, there's an end goal to that. But why is it? Because Scripture showed us the woman is looking for love and wants to feel that from a man. And many times, she will give up certain areas and certain things to get what she feels is a love. Whether it's emotional, whether it's physical. There's many ladies that will trade physical so they can have the emotional. Happens all the time. And that can be manipulated. So you have to have these stop losses put in there. You have to hear and recognize the rumble strips in life and set those boundaries. I'll give you another one. For those of you that have been in different marriages, and maybe you're still raising kids, you don't need to be texting at 1 o'clock in the morning with your ex. There is no reason. All you need to do is deal with what needs to be dealt with the kids during regular times, during whatever time that needs to be, and that's it. If you wanted to be with them that bad, you should have never separated in the first place. I know that's harsh stuff, I don't play. I tell you what you need to know, not what you want to know. But that's the truth of it. And when you don't have those safeguards built in there, things go sideways, things blow up, and you have issues and you have problems. The overall thing is, love is a fortress. Love is a fortress, and it should be a fortress, so you have to guard it like it's Fort Knox. You have to guard it like it's Fort Knox, because love, it's worth having, is love worth guarding. You have to guard that. Men and women alike. Put those stop losses in there. Build that in before it breaks. Fourth thing. This is a small, because I'm going to get into some things next week of what's coming down the pipe. But another area you need some safeguards in, money matters. Money matters. When cash rules, you don't. Money's always a hot topic in any relationship, anytime a pastor talks about it, anything like that. But money does matter. You know, many of us today, or several people, you know, they're facing what? Student debt. They're facing, you know, paying off mortgages. They're facing rent and all those types of things that we deal with. We're facing the whole thing of every day I got to go to, of course, we don't have one around here, but depending on where you work, I got to get to Starbucks and have that $6 cup of coffee. Right? You have to set up within your financial scheme of things stop losses. You have to get to a point where you rule your cash and it doesn't rule you. You rule your money, it doesn't rule you. Matthew 6:24. He tells us plainly, no one can serve two masters. For either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. Mammon, simply put, is money. Just a nice, fancy biblical word. How could we relate to that? Well, I could probably relate to this in my house, maybe. We'll see who blushes. Probably won't be me. Man, when that Amazon buy now button comes up, oh, I gotta have it. What could your stop loss be? When you're feeling that, that's something to now, I mean, if it's something you have to have, I get that. But there are many things that we buy on Amazon that you really don't need, and it's going to go home. You're going to spend $25 on it, and it's going to sit somewhere, or it's going to end up in the garage, or it's going to end up in the attic, and you're never even going to use it, maybe once, maybe twice. You're never even going to do it, but yet you spent $50 on it because you just had to have it. That buy button came up. Why do you think they put a buy button in there, or a buy now button? It's emotional. Everything, marketing and everything that you live in this world is manipulated. It's manipulated to cause the person that doesn't have stop losses set, cause the person that doesn't have any kind of, they're not listening for the rumble strip, to cause that person to make impulse decisions. That's what it's there for. So how about this? When you're feeling that, and you can tell that it's emotionally messing with me. Oh, to hit that buy now button. Man, give it 24 hours. Give it 24 hours. Why? Most times, not all times, most times unless you really need it, most times in that 24 hours, you'll talk yourself out of buying it. I am the world's worst Walmart shopper. Well, one, because I don't shop. Wife does not take me shopping in 34 years. She knows, do not take. I'll sit out in the car or out in the vehicle at Walmart, and she'll go in. She knows she could be in there 2 hours. Of course, nowadays they have all the stuff where you just order it. Buy now, right? And then not only will they bring it out to your car, we'll make it even easier. We'll bring it to your house for this low fee of like $12 a month. Folks, you're being played. Oh, don't get me wrong, I pay for all that. But I know I'm getting played. But that's the thing. We live in that world, and we have to have those stop losses, because I'm that guy, as I said, at Walmart, I'm that guy, I go in, I know what I'm getting, I go, got it, and I'm out. I'm done. I don't shop, I don't look at stuff, I'm in, I'm out. Okay, the occasional gun or tool or something like that, it may catch my eye. I'm not saying something shiny can't slow me down. But as a general rule, I don't do that. I'm a horrible shopper. And if I do ever go shopping, I'm notorious for this. I've got half a cart full of stuff. But you know what I do? I keep moseying around, going past the tool section. I really don't need that. I put it up. I go, and then I put that up. Well, those, man, them eggs are like $18 now. Okay, I'll do without it, whatever. And then I put them up. By the time I get up to the cart, I'm lucky if I have one thing. And a lot of times in the past, I just turn around and be leaving. I just wasted an hour of my life, and I end up going home and I don't even have anything. But when you slow down, that creates a stop-loss measure in the midst of how you're doing life. Because here's what you have to know, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about money today. Here's the thing you have to know. Money is designed to be your servant, not your savior. Money is designed to be your servant, not your savior. Do not let money own you. You have to own it, but have it wrapped in wisdom and how to apply it and how to use it in your life. We'll go deeper with that next week. So this is the fifth thing, last thing. Your core is the key. What do I mean by that? Whether it's presidents, whether it's CEOs, whether it's most powerful and the wealthiest, they're always seen as, what do we call those type of people? VIPs, right? Very important persons. Well, guess what? There's a VIP in your life as well. You know what that is? Bless you. That VIP in your life is your heart. Because everything flows from it, good or bad. Listen to this in Proverbs 4:23 through 27. Guard your heart. Oh, isn't it amazing how, we go through this thing all through life, and there's this thing called the Bible. That us pastors, we tell you, man, everything's in there. There's a roadmap for your whole life if you just look at it. Boom, here you go. Pastor's telling you this. Look what God says. Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. We are emotional creatures. Avoid all perverse talk. Stay away from corrupt speech. I'll talk about that here in just a minute. And then he gives you the remedy. Look straight ahead. Fix your eyes on what lies before you. Set goals. Head towards it. Keep God in the middle of it. Mark out a straight path for your feet. Stay on that safe path. What's on the sides of that straight path? There's your rumble strips. Don't get sidetracked. Keep your feet from following evil. Now I'm going to go back up to 24. He says, avoid perverse talk, stay away from corrupt speech. The first thing you think of, man, Pastor tell me don't cuss. Right? That's the first thing you're thinking. I know you are. Don't try to lie to me. That isn't what it's talking about. Isn't it all what it's talking about? For perverse, the Hebrew word is ikahush. That's the Hebrew word. And what it actually means is don't have any twisted or crooked speech. It's talking about lying, but it's even more than that. It's talking about don't be that person that is taking anything good and twisting it into something bad, something crooked, something that's wrong. That's what it's talking about. It isn't talking about your language. Here he's talking about this type of a thing, this speech that's twisted and it's crooked. And then he goes on when it says, or corrupt speech. Okay? Lazuth, that is the Hebrew word for that. And what he's talking about here is deviant speech, right? Slippery, manipulative speech to try to move the masses and manipulate to get what you want. That's what this is talking about. See, we always read and go, oh, he's just talking about don't be cussing. Don't say that bad word. Look there, no perverse speech, no corrupt speech. That's what he's talking about here. Watch the lying tongue. Don't turn things that are good and try to make them bad. And don't be manipulative in the things that you say to get your way. That's what he's talking about. He goes on to say in Jeremiah 17:9, check this out. What's he say? What do we tell people, everybody? What do we say? We say, oh, follow your heart. Follow your heart, young man. Blaze your trail. What's God say? The heart is deceitful above all things. Why is that? It's because it'll lie to you. It will fool you. Because we are emotional creatures that base everything on those emotions, and we make decisions accordingly. And it says, not only just that, he says, and it's desperately wicked. Whoa. That's a shocker. And he goes on, he says, who can know it? But then he tells us, he says, I, the Lord. And he tells us that he searches our heart. He says, I test the mind, even to give every man according to his ways, according to the fruit of his doings. The Bible teaches us, and it tells us, that man judges the outward appearance, but God examines the heart. And why is that? Because he knows that it leads you down the paths that you choose. Because you are an emotional creature. You are, and I am. This isn't just poetry in these scriptures here. There's power in these. There's power in these. Because what we do is we let in anger. We let in sometimes joy. We let in fear. We'll let in faith. And then those things shape our whole world. Here's a very easy one that the markets knew and media knew a long time ago, that manipulates you through emotion. What kind of music you listen to? Huh? Yeah. You ever notice how, well, I tell you what, I remember in the day, man, some AC/DC come on and all that kind of stuff. Buddy, I'm driving down the road, man. I got that car zinging. It just emotionally, it just throttled me, man. I'm ready to go. Let's do this thing. Fire that thing up because we're emotional creatures. What do we hear nowadays through the music? Man, it's every country song typically is depressing, or this one broke up with that one, and how bad my life is, and then you've got the thug type stuff. It's calling women every name in the book and demoralizing them and making them like they're nothing and they're no account and all these type of things. And we wonder why our society and our culture is so messed up. Garbage in, garbage out. And it manipulates us into bad decisions. Swap that for some worship. I turned Chris on to a band a while back that have all kinds of songs. But what they did was they took the songs that we listened to growing up, the AC/DCs, the different ones, the popular, all kinds of crazy popular songs. You would know them as soon as they start playing. But the group's name is Apologetics. And the reason it's Apologetics, it's because they turn it into a godly message. But it sounds like the same songs you used to party to. Only they've taken it and turned it into something to glorify God. You ought to look them up. You'll be amazed. I know Chris was shocked. He's like, never knew those guys were out there. But change that to change the emotion. Okay? Same thing we talked about earlier. Put in those safeguards. Put in those measures that help us stay on that narrow path that we were talking about there. We get into that whole thing of just doom scrolling through every social media account we could ever imagine. Hey, how about trading 5 minutes of that time and praying? Boy, there's an idea. And you'll be surprised how to begin to change your life because it shapes us. He just told us we follow our heart. We follow our emotions and all those things. It's no different than a vehicle. We had one time, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years ago, we had one of our guys go to a BP in one of our service trucks. He goes to a BP. Well, in a lot of the places that you go to, like your fuel nozzle will be green. Well, at a BP, the diesel nozzle's green. And he wasn't paying attention. He just sees green nozzle, he just grabs it so he fills his truck up. Or it was the other way around. It was diesel and then the color, whatever. Forgive me if I got a little bit off. The story's still the same. He put the wrong fuel in the truck. All he had to do was start it, and about 30 seconds later, that motor was shot. Because he put the wrong fuel in the vehicle, and the end result was very bad and very costly. Know what kind of fuel you are putting in your mind. Have your stop losses. If that same thing is the other stuff I was talking about earlier, if that music is throttling you in a way, and you're listening to stuff you shouldn't be listening to, and especially that thug stuff, and next thing you know, the way you talk to your significant other begins to change, and you throw out some things, this and that, you better be hearing those rumble strips going off loud, because you're putting the wrong fuel in, is what the problem is. And it's changing you, and I promise there will be consequences. There will be costly mistakes. So closing this out, bottom line with that section, protect the core, protect your heart, as the word tells us. Here's our call to action today. Rumble strips and stop losses, they're not boring, they're bold. And they're needed in your life. You have to have them. If you don't start putting them in there, don't expect anything to change. Okay? Those are there as a shield in your life, as a protector. And that helps to launch you into living a regret-free life. It helps you to overcome those challenges. So this week, I challenge you. Find some areas of your life that you need to put some stop losses in, because you're already hearing the rumble strips going off. And begin to place those in there. Set those there, and then when you hit them, know you've got to get out of that. Like I said, maybe it's that toxic individual in your life. Oh, I know, you've been friends for 27 years. I know. But if they're toxic, you need to cut it off. Because I promise you, there's an area in your life somewhere that they are affecting you negatively and causing issues. I've seen friendships that are toxic end up destroying a marriage. And the marriage had nothing to do with this, but because of all the stresses, because of all the anxiety, because of all the depression, and because of all the stuff that happens over here in this, it affected this. And it cost us more than we ever thought that it would, because there was no stop loss there. We didn't have the courage to do what was needed. And we have to put those in the middle of our lives. If you have that friend that is a friend beyond friends, if you have that individual that you know will tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear, and you can still love them, you still walk away and be friends, those are the kind of friends you need. Not just the ones that pat you on the back and tell you how, oh, everything you do is perfect and everything you do is right. And oh, it's that big meano this, or it's that big bad over here, and they're always wrong and you're always right. You don't need that. But you need that friend that'll be that type of person for you, that will lift you up when you need lifted up, but that will let you know what you need to hear when you need to hear it. We all need those kind of accountability type partners. And we trust in that friendship, so it helps us all out.